Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're just waiting a minute or two to allow everybody to come into the webinar session. While we're doing that, I'll just say a few words. My name's Anne Lubbock. I'm a member of the Many Rivers Business Development team. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our Client Journey webinar today. This online event is to celebrate Indigenous Business Month, and it highlights the outcomes and the journeys of clients in our Indigenous Small Business Development Program and the work of their coaches in that space. We're here to hear from them about their journeys growing businesses. Before introducing our speakers, I'd like to acknowledge the Gabal and Jarawal people as traditional owners of the lands where I live and work in Toowoomba, Southeast Queensland. Pay my respects to elders past and present, and I extend that same respect to all Indigenous people joining today or listening to the recording. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our guest speakers. We have joining us today Ceanne Lemont, a proud Worimi woman sharing her story of starting and growing ICC Corrosion control. We're also joined by Philip Smallwood, founder of Ochre Land Maintenance. We're thankful to you both for giving us your time and sharing your experiences in business and in the Many Rivers Indigenous Small Business Development Program. From the Many Rivers team, we have online today Gina Ezard. She's our Regional Manager of Small Business Development and brings extensive experience across a diverse range of industries and roles, including community development and social enterprise. Gina is qualified in business management and as a youth worker held managerial and consultant roles in the community sector. Alongside her is Tito Gonzalez, who's our Small Business Development Manager based in Southeast Queensland. Tito has over 30 years of business experience, starting in civil engineering and transitioning through accounting and business administration. He served as financial director at a manufacturing company before successfully running his own import and retail business for over 2 decades. Towards the end of the webinar, we will open the floor to questions. So for audience members who think of a question they'd like to ask, please add it to the Q&A window, which you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So let's get to the part you're all here for, the panel conversation. Over to you, Gina.
Great, thank you. Hi, Ceanne, so good to see you, and thanks for joining the panel today. I really look forward to having a conversation with you. So to kick off, tell us a little bit about your business and what motivated you to grow your business.
Hi, Gina. Thanks for having me today. So my name's Ceanne. I'm a proud Worimi woman, and I am the Managing Director of ICC Industrial Corrosion Control, which is an abrasive sandblasting and protective coatings company. So the biggest aspiration for me and my husband to start our company was to create generational wealth, something that's not big in my family. We started our company right from the bottom with 0 funds. We have the skills and the knowledge to start our company, and that's what's gotten us here today.
Great. And so you've been in business for about just over a year and a half. So tell us about how you started your business journey and growth with your SBD manager, which is myself. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so on the startup phase, we jumped online with IBA for their business startup programs. Now, that's where we got an introduction to Many Rivers. We're recommended for business planning help to help develop our business plan. So we reached out to Many Rivers and they were very happy to help. So 2 parts of the help I got from Many Rivers was, 1, to do our business plan and just to support you on anything you might need to know right from the start. Starting up your business isn't easy, and we all know lots of things about starting up a business. However, there are lots of things we don't know, and that's what Many Rivers are there for the support. Look, mentally as well, it's a big thing starting up your business, and there's a lot of support that you do need. Even to give them a call or an email, just if you're not sure on something, they're always there to help. It's so crucial. And then we moved on passed the business planning stage, got up and running. And then we started I've started a 3-year program with Gina, and that's where we're doing all of our business growth aspirations. Mainly, we're working on cash flow, marketing, and my training program that I am developing as we move along and progress.
Fantastic. So can you share one of the growth aspirations with everybody that you worked on with me, or you've been working with me, and what outcome you're looking for from that?
Yeah, so one of my growth aspirations was the cash flow projections. So for me, I'm not an accountant, and so I needed to learn really fast. And Gina taught me everything I know now about how to manage my cash flow. And we worked endlessly, every month on my cash flow projections, making sure it's right, entering new projects. Because part of my company, we do project work. So it's not very straightforward when you're entering the sales into our cash flow projection. It's all, overtime and all these other allowances, side allowances that we need to put in the cash flow. And that's where, Gina and I would work on. I'd say, Gina, I've got a new job coming up. How can we implement this? And Gina will help me do that. We put it all into place so I can see the real ebbs and flows of the company and where the company is sitting financially. So we might think, great, we've just had a $50,000 invoice. However, if you're not looking at your cash flow and you can't see the real picture, then, you might tend to think that, your company has got more money than it really has at that point, especially when it comes to taxes and GST, pay as you go, all of those things. It shows you month to month where it's sitting, what your cash flow is going to look like in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 12 months' time, if you can project it that far. So it's just so crucial, and it's been absolutely the best support that I've ever had from any service, just to maintain that. And it's one thing I didn't understand was how important it was. And it's so good with Gina. She really tells you that you must treat this like your Bible for your business. If you don't know your cash flow, then you're not setting yourself up for success. It could really go downhill very quickly. Another thing that I do with managing that cash flow as well is all about the banking of the GST and the taxes. And, and again, Gina being my mentor, I can talk to her about those things and say, is this a good thing that I'm doing? And she'll reaffirm and say, yes, that's wonderful, that it's exactly the way I would do it myself. So this is how we do it. And I bank all my GST, every invoice that comes in, every Wednesday I do payroll. I bank all my pay-as-you-go and my superannuation for my employees, and it all goes into a separate account, and I will never be in debt with the tax office, because that's the hardest thing, is the cash flow in your company. Our company is always needing more cash flow, and especially because we're only a year old. And some of the projects that we've started up doing is very early stages in our company. We're only 15 months old now, and already we're working for some tier 1 companies. So that you need to be, your GST, your taxes needs to be paid. And some of those, companies will go in and check, make sure that you're not behind in your GST and your taxes, but your cash flow, your taxes, if it's sitting in the same account, you might say, okay, it's money that we have there to float our company, but it's not really, because the tax office, you will owe them, and it could, hurt your bottom line in the long run if you're not paying it up to date.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Ceanne. And we've done a fair bit of work as well around the cost of goods sold, particularly with your company and the work that you do around hourly rates and being out on site. Can you talk a little bit more to that for me?
Yeah, so another thing that Gina's taught me with our cash flow projections is how to work out the percentages of cost of goods sold. So that might be, so we're selling labour essentially, or we're quoting a work package. And so we need to work out right down to every last cent on a pair of gloves, PPE, glasses, any materials you might need, any other hidden costs that there will be in that project. And you work out that cost of goods sold, and on your cash flow, it shows you the picture on how it all works, and it sums it all up if you are entering it correctly. So it's just so important to know how much the job is actually costing you. You know, you can never estimate these things. It has to be correct, and it has to be worked out so that you know that you're charging correctly for your services. If I start charging a set rate, and I haven't worked out in my hourly rate how much every single thing's going to cost me that I might provide to my worker, or materials that I'm going to need for that, then I'm going to be in all sorts of trouble. So it's so important, and Gina's taught me how important it is to make sure that we know where our break-even points are in our cash flow, and that we're actually going to be making money, not losing it, because things can add up very quickly, especially when you're on working on different projects. Hidden things might pop up, hidden expenses. And if you're not charging accordingly right from the get-go, then you're going to lose.
Great, thanks, Ceanne. So can you share the impact or the benefit that the SBD program has had on your business?
Yes, absolutely. So this program has enabled me to keep my doors open, and for me to become a good managing director, keeping my you know, eye on the prize, on my goals, and staying focused. It's kept me accountable. You know, every month I know that Gina and I meet together to work on our business, to make sure that I'm accountable and staying on the ball. Work happens and jobs come in, and we get so busy, and sometimes we don't get time. We don't put aside time to actually work on your company and all those important things. But because I'm part of Many Rivers and I have Gina as my mentor, I know I'm going to turn up to Gina, and because I know how valuable the work we do together is for my company to keep going. And it's also good to have that person. It's like having a friend in business where you can go, you can vent, you can talk about different flows, scenarios, different situations. You know, I always, because we've started our company from zero and we're trying to build it up enough to get to where we need to be for our company to start, you know, really turning over, I need somebody there so that I can depend on and say, hey, Gina, what do you think about this? Like, I've got this situation. How am I going to float this? How are we going to do that? And Gina was like, okay, let's look at it. Let's have a look at everything. And we work it all out, and we go away, and then I'm clear and focused again. So I could not be doing this in this business without the support of Gina.
Thank you, Ceanne. That's great. And look, I have one final question for you. What would you recommend the SBD program? Would you recommend it to other people that is looking for the growth support?
103,000%. You know, I would recommend anyone going into business to contact Many Rivers and just take on this support. It is invaluable to you. The support, it's not only a free service, which is a big thing when you're starting up your business. You know, there's a lot of purchases that you need to make in the startup of your business. And one thing when to find the means to actually get a business coach, it's just impossible. I would not have been able to afford to get a business coach or a business mentor. So Many Rivers, I would recommend anybody starting out to do this, because they help you with your business plan. They can help you with microfinancing. They can help you with everything. And then you go on to your growth aspirations, and it's ongoing support, you know, for 3 years. And I just think that why wouldn't you? You know, why wouldn't you have Many Rivers on your side? As I said, I can call Gina anytime with any problems I have or any scenarios I need help with nutting things out. And the cash flow, I would still be back at working out the spreadsheet 6 months ago if it wasn't for Gina and the work we do. So just give them a call and do yourself a favour.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Ceanne. Is there anything else that you would like to add, or will I hand back over to Anne Harrod?
I think I'm good now.
Great. Thanks for your time, Ceanne.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Anne Harrod.
Thank you, Gina. That was absolutely amazing to hear more from Ceanne and you really the journey that you two have taken together. It's now time to hear from Tito and Philip. So over to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne Harrod. Hi, Phil. How's it going?
Good, mate. Yourself? Good to see
Good,
you again.
man. Thanks very much for putting aside a bit of time today out of your busy schedule.
It's fine, mate.
Appreciate you coming out. So, Phil, tell us a little bit about your business and what motivated you to grow your business.
So I'm the founder of Ochre Land Maintenance. My name's Philip Smallwood. I'm 39 years old. I was born in the Bundjalung area, the Tweed, but my grandfather is a Berry Nation from far north Queensland, and my grandmother was Dunghutti from Kempsey. So one of the aspirations and, you know, why I wanted to start a business was to, you know, I spent 20 years in civil. I worked all over the place, and I guess half of it was to be a bit more present with my family, young kids, just to help out with the, you know, general young family life. I ended up staying home with my daughter when my partner went back to work, and, you know, after 20 years to sort of staying home doing that, as she got a bit older, I had a bit more time, so I started getting into, you know, a few lawns, you know, a bit of gardening here. Then that quickly eventuated into, you know, a lot of work, and then sort of took that and rode back with the business. So that, which allowed me more, you know, time with the family. So so that was a motivator. But, you know, now that it's sort of grown, I've sort of taken it on, and, you know, 3 years down the track now, I'm sort of still doing it. So one of the other sort of aspirations that I, you know, with the business was to one day, if I could create an environment for, you know, people like myself when I was young, you know, that sort of maybe needed the extra hand, or, you know, to be able to also create a work environment that, you know, everyone feels valued, and, you know, as a family, you know, sort of as I sort of learnt the hard way being a young Indigenous man in civil. You know, I did that for 20 years, but, you know, there was some sort of negative stuff over that time, but I used that to empower myself to where I got to the highest level in civil. But having gone for that sort of experience, it sort of pushed me to be able to, you know, one day create a, you know, a work environment for people where I understand them as well. And, you know, that it could be an environment where they could go to and, you know, feel as one, and, you know, also be the person to sort of help mentor some of these younger kids that, you know, I wish I sort of might have had when I was younger. So that was there, a few sort of big sort of aspirations that have sort of kept me going, you know, as to, you know, I sort of started off just doing a few things that led into something else, you know, when I was home with my daughter. So yeah, they're the aspirations that I still have as well. But yeah, so, you know, I started my business 3 years ago. I actually was in Canberra at the time, and I was working with a big civil company down there, and I had house deposit. But when I moved back, the COVID was flushed me out of the market. So I ended up using the small bit of money that I had to start a business and to go further than, you know, just doing a few yards. And yeah, 3 years later now, so I've, you know, doubled my business every year in those 3 years. Yeah, so that was sort of how I started, and, you know, some of the aspirations that sort of led me to get to where I am today by taking that first big step. So yeah.
That's a great story, Phil. Thanks for sharing. And amazing how it started off as sort of something on the side and, you know, part-time sort of thing, and it's what it's grown into. Especially all those big contracts, or not like those big 16 schools that you had to do, and
yeah,
you know, contracts basically. Yeah, that you've done really well in that. How did having me as your small business development coach help you get started with those growth aspirations that you set for yourself?
Yeah, I was very grateful to come across yourself, Tino, because you know, as I was sort of starting that journey, you know, I knew how to do the hands-on stuff, you know, make money. I used that civil industry that I did for 20 years to incorporate, you know, how I did, you know, work on the ground. But there was always that aspect of that was sort of all I knew. I knew there was a lot more to behind business, you know, in terms of, you know, just how business works in general. And, you know, for a while there, I was sort of just going along in a bit of a grey area, just doing jobs and going through that process of, you know, sending invoices. But I knew as I was growing bigger, you know, and sort of the few bigger contracts I had with, you know, New South Wales schools and New South Wales Land and Housing Corporation, and, you know, these are sort of all tier one sort of contracts, and it sort of really sort of started me, and I did not to do. So once we sort of did meet and we started to, you know, start to do things, it gave me a real sense of ease that I had someone that, you know, eventually to now, you know, became a friend that, you know, I could call, you know, rather than trying to hold that in and write it out. You know, we was able to sort of, I could ring you at any time, you know, when those big sort of contracts come on. And, you know, I always seen those as, you know, opportunities, and I'd sort of go into them without having the breakdown of what, you know, once I'd sort of speak to you, and once things were broke down and I had a better understanding as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely having you there, you know, at a phone call or at Zoom meetings as we had, and for you being able to come through the back end of my computer and, you know, show me what it is, you know, and what was needed. It, you know, it really gave me that confidence to, I guess, face those bigger opportunities I had, whereas I was sort of sometimes like, oh, that's too big, or, you know, that's a bit out of my league. But having, you know, the conversations and being able to chat with you at the times of those sort of opportunities that came up really, you know, helped push me to, you know, and be confident in knowing that, you know, having that background of the inside of the business was really good. And still today, you know, we still sort of talk and stuff, and, you know, I've got some big stuff coming on, and you know, I always say to Tito too, like, you know, I scratch my head to think a few yards while I was staying with my daughter to now with all this contract, you know, like, yeah, having you there has definitely been a big help for myself and my business, because, you know, there was times where I look back now and go, I could have easily missed out on those opportunities because I didn't have the confidence, and, you know, I didn't know sort of what area or how to approach it. So yeah, that's been really empowering for myself, you know, to have the relationship what I do with yourself, and, you know, to be able to call you when those things are needed and get the information I needed, or, you know, stuff like that, and to help break things down, because can be a little bit impulsive at times. So
No, good. Awesome, man. And can you share one of your growth aspirations that we worked on together in order to get the outcome that you wanted?
yeah, so yeah, like I said, with definitely my biggest aspiration on business side of things would have been, or it was, to find out what was on the other side of the business, rather than, you know, what I did, you know, on the ground. Or I knew all that second nature, but there was so much more that I realized, you know, with some of the big contracts I was getting, they were sort of asking for certain things and I didn't know what they were, you know. So there was a few times there where I sort of steered away for certain jobs or contracts because I didn't know. But once we met, you know, I remember you asking me what was my, you know, what was a weakness, but also what was an aspiration. And that was I wanted to understand the logistics side of, you know, businesses, how things work, taxes and GSTs and cash flow, and, you know, also just making the right decisions. You know, I always would think of things, but I didn't have the format of a system how to do it. So yeah, the biggest aspiration would have been having that breakdown, and, you know, which we did through one of the workshops. You know, like, that was really, really understanding for me. Looking back now, it was definitely a much needed step that I needed to take. You know, looking to where I sit today, you know, I've got some really good jobs and contracts, but having that workshop when we did really broke things down for me. It made me much more confident, and it did it. That's what I understood a lot more. And for me, that was a really good thing, because I lacked in that area. You know, it was a grey area for me, and I was dragging it along with me along the time. And it, yeah, it was very, very much needed, and, you know, grateful that we sort of did it. But that workshop definitely did give me a really good breakdown, having the one-on-one, you know, the papers and writing things down up on the wall. You know, I don't think I could have done that over a phone call or sitting in a room, you know, with other people, just for myself, for how I sort of process things. But yeah, that was, it was very well, like, for me to understand that and how we did it and how you wrote it out on, you know, papers. We have papers all over this room, you know, like, so yeah, that was a workshop, was very good, and it helped fulfill, you know, those aspirations that I needed, you know, to continue the business and take on the bigger jobs. And, you know, and looking back now to now, it was a very sort of powerful and important time, you know, for where my business was and where I was at, how I understood things. So
yeah, no, that's great. I think you've shared with us then, you know, how the impact and the benefit that our program has had, you know, on your business. So thanks very much for sharing that. And what would you say to other small business owners that are looking to grow their business about our program?
yeah, I would definitely recommend it to, you know, anyone that's looking to sort of go out on their own or to chase their dreams. Sometimes chasing dreams could be, you know, snuffed out because there's this word business and what lies behind the word, you know, that there's a lot more. And, you know, definitely, you know, I would recommend someone to, you know, chase their dreams by having someone like yourself or Many Rivers behind them or working alongside them. But definitely reassure that, you know, those dreams could be achieved. You know, having someone that you can sort of phone when it needs, when you get into sort of, you come to a bit of a halt, you know, which I had many times, you know, having someone to call or a program that would help guide you along and assist you when it's needed would be much recommended on my side of things. You know, I grew up in communities, and, you know, I've always heard people talk about, I wish this, I wish that. You know, I always tell them, you know, chase your dream, take a big step. You know, there's people out there and there's programs out there that'll help you. And, you know, the Many Rivers one would be, and yourself, I'd, you know, always, you know, give the information, or I'd, you know, provide them that, you know, what they've done for me, and it'll be a good recommendation to sort of take it up, because, you know, sometimes those big dreams are just a small step away, and, you know, you probably find out that things aren't as big as what they seem out to be in your head, as long as you have the right systems and people to help guide you, you know, it'll happen, or it can work. So I would definitely recommend this program to, you know, a business, small, big, or whatever. It's the relationships that you build along the way. It's, you know, the times and, you know, the things that can be provided to help you in those areas. So I definitely would provide, you know, anyone who's looking to start a business with this program, or even if they was connected with yourself. So
awesome, man. Thanks for that. That's all the questions we have for you today. Over back to you, Angharad.
Thanks, Tito. Thanks, Philip. That was really fascinating, and I can see the similarities there between Ceanne's story around technical business, you know, considerations, but also self-doubt and confidence to say yes to things that seem potentially overwhelming for someone in their own right. So I wanted to take the chance now to just invite people from the audience who might have questions to pop those in the Q&A window or in the chat. And while we're waiting for some of those to come through, Gina, back to you for a question just about how large the program is and what you're anticipating as far as growth is concerned. It's a small team, but you guys seem fairly busy out there.
Yeah, at the moment we've signed up 65 clients over the last sort of 18 months, maybe not even quite that. And we're probably actively working with 55 of those. So we're really having an impact, I think, out there as well. And we're getting we completed our first survey a couple of months ago, and from that survey, some of the data that we got from that showed that we've got 85% of our clients that we're working with. So we surveyed 19. Out of those 19, 85% of them have already showed growth within their business. So that's revenue as well as employment. So I feel like, you know, the program is progressing along nicely. And yeah, I think that our clients, talking to them today, hopefully indicating that they're getting some really great benefit.
That's great. And we've had a question come through in the Q&A about how Many Rivers works with other organisations that provide support to Indigenous businesses, for example, IBA. Could you talk to us a little bit about how Many Rivers and IBA are working together and what makes the SBD program unique, and what you know, how people can think about us differently?
Sure. So we're working with IBA to kind of cross-referral, I suppose, in moving forward. You know, they do have loans, we have some loans, but there is a little bit of a gap there. I think one of the things that we offer up that is assisting IBA is that we have this intensive coaching support. You know, when we have our clients come on into the program, the first thing that we do is a health check, a business health check with the business, just to make sure that we understand their business, but they also understand their business, and we identify any potential gaps that might be that they might need to address before we go down the path of growth aspirations. So what we want to do is actually underpin the business and make sure that everybody is satisfied that it's ready for that growth. Then we go into and I think Philip was talking about it, well, he was talking about it before the workshop. So that's our strategic planning workshop that we do with our clients. It's generally about a day, and we go through a couple of growth aspirations that the client would like to address in their business for their growth. Because what we do know is that our clients, they have all the answers. We're just the facilitators. We know that they have the ideas around how they want to do it, what they want to do, but how they do it may be a roadblock for them at that time. So, so the workshop, and then we come up with a project plan, and the team work with the client to that project plan for that growth aspiration that they've got, which keeps them accountable, keeps us accountable as well, and helps get that growth happening as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And we've got interested businesses online today. are there any limits to geographic participation? I know Philip talked about the value he found in having someone, you know, in person. We are place-based, but you're a small team. What would you say to people who might be in regional or remote areas and are interested in finding out whether they could join the program?
Sure, we will work with anybody around Australia. We can't always do face-to-face, but we do have a Teams meetings. But in terms of the workshop itself, we have a virtual strategic planning program that we use to do the workshop. So we can do it virtually rather, you know, if you're out remote, that's one of the best options. We're getting some really good feedback around that process and that program. So yes, that's the way we would work with those clients.
Good. We have a question about eligibility. Yeah, what's the best way to summarize eligibility?
Yes, obviously we're working with solely Aboriginal businesses, existing businesses, so need to have been operating for a while. We'd rather have the conversation around that. What does that look like? Do you have some opportunities in the pipeline? You might not have been operating particularly long, but there might be a reason why we would take you into our program. Yeah, and have probably wanting to get growth in the business and employ in the business as well.
Okay, fantastic. So employment and yeah, revenue growth. I guess the only other question that would be wonderful to ask is back actually to you and Philip and Ceanne both is to just give a piece of advice to yourself, the person you were at the beginning of the Many Rivers engagement. You know, what would you say to yourself if you were there back there and had the chance to say a few words?
Well, I will go first. So the piece of advice I would give to myself would be do a little bit more research, planning. We jumped into it very, very quickly. Obviously, we'd been thinking about it and planning, doing a small bit of planning for a little bit of time. But when you dive in, I went, okay, I really could have been a little bit more prepared for this, but it works out. Sometimes you work better under pressure.
Lovely.
Piece of advice I would have given myself back then would be, yeah, to sort of just be patient. As long as you stick with what you set out to be, doesn't always have to be perfect, but yeah, just, you know, sort of be patient, but then I guess be resilient. You know, things don't always sort of happen or come your way at times, but as you expect, but, you know, being resilient, sticking into it, you know, like Ceanne was saying, like you sort of do work a bit better under pressure. You know, you sort of tend to make things happen or get them done. So yeah, that would just, yeah, to be resilient and just be prepare yourself for things that don't go the way and just to sort of, you know, react, you know, and stick to it.
Excellent. Thanks, Philip. Well, thank you all for a fantastic, open, honest conversation about your experiences, you know, launching and growing a business that has purpose for you and purpose for your community, and the value of, you know, having a trusted coach to keep things on track and moving forward for you. If anyone on the call, excuse me, is interested to learn more about the Indigenous Small Business Program, a link will be available for you in the chat and in the Q&A window. And a recording of the session will be in your inbox soon. So please keep an eye out for that and share it with anyone who you think might be interested in hearing Ceanne and Philip's stories, or whether there might be something that resonates for you. You can keep that as a record. This brings us to the end of the webinar. So thank you very much for your attendance and wish one and all a wonderful Indigenous Business Month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.